What happens when America's biggest pop star walks into what should be a simple morning chat and leaves in tears after a host crosses every line imaginable? In just 40 seconds, one comment from Michael Strahan turned a friendly interview into the most shocking moment in Good Morning America history. The studio lights were bright that morning. Taylor Swift sat on the cream-colored couch, her smile warm and genuine. She'd done this 1,000 times before. Morning shows were supposed to be easy. Softball questions about her latest album, a few laughs, maybe a performance. Nothing complicated. Michael Strahan sat across from her, his usual confidence filling the space. Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos flanked him on either side, their note cards ready. The cameras rolled. Everything seemed normal. "So Taylor, welcome back to Good Morning America," Michael said, his voice booming across the set. "Always great to have you here." "Thank you so much for having me," Taylor replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm excited to talk about the new album." Robin leaned forward, her tone gentle. "We've been listening all week. The lyrics are so personal, so vulnerable. Can you walk us through your writing process for this one?" Taylor's face lit up. This was her comfort zone. Talking about music, about the craft of songwriting. "Well, I actually started writing most of these songs late at night. There's something about 3 a.m. when the world is quiet, and you can really dig into your emotions without any filters or..." "Must be nice," Michael interrupted. "Having all that free time to write songs in the middle of the night while the rest of us are working real jobs?" The comment hung in the air. Robin's eyes widened. George shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Taylor's smile faltered, just slightly. "I'm sorry," Taylor said, her voice still polite, but with an edge of confusion. "I'm just saying," Michael continued, leaning back in his chair like he owned the place. "You make it sound so dreamy and artistic, but let's be real. You write breakup songs for a living. How hard can that really be?" Robin tried to jump in. "Michael, I think what Taylor is trying to share is..." No, let me finish," Michael said, holding up his hand to silence Robin. "I'm curious. You've been doing this for what, 15 years? And you're still writing about the same thing? Breakups, revenge, feeling sad? Don't you think it's time to grow up a little? Write about something that matters?" Taylor's jaw tightened. Her hands gripped the armrest of the couch. "Excuse me, but my music does matter. To millions of people who connect with..." "Oh, here we go," Michael laughed, looking at the camera like he was sharing an inside joke with America. "The 'my fans love me' defense. Classic. Listen, sweetheart, I'm not saying your fans don't exist. I'm saying maybe you should challenge yourself. Write about real issues. Politics, social justice, things that actually impact the world." "Michael, that's really unfair," George interjected, his professional composure cracking. "Taylor has been very vocal about social issues. She's used her platform for..." "For what?" Michael shot back. "For telling people to vote?" Wow, so brave. So groundbreaking. He turned back to Taylor, his eyes sharp. "You make songs about your ex-boyfriends and act like you're changing the world. It's honestly embarrassing." Taylor's face had gone from confused to hurt to something else entirely. Anger. Pure, justified anger. "You don't get to sit there and tell me what my art should be about. You don't get to diminish what I do just because you don't understand it." "Oh, I understand it perfectly," Michael said, his voice dripping with condescension. "You date a guy. It doesn't work out. You write a song. You make millions. Repeat. It's a formula, a business model. And hey, more power to you for monetizing your failed relationships. But don't act like it's some deep, meaningful contribution to society." Robin's voice was firm now, almost angry. "Michael, stop. And this is completely inappropriate." "What? I'm just being honest," Michael said with a shrug. "Someone needs to say it. Everyone else just kisses up to her because she's Taylor Swift. I'm treating her like I'd treat anyone else on this show." "No," Taylor said, her voice shaking slightly. "You're being cruel. There's a difference between asking tough questions and being deliberately hurtful. Hurtful? Michael scoffed. You're a billionaire. You have millions of fans. You can't handle one person not worshiping you? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're so used to everyone telling you how amazing you are that you can't handle actual criticism. George's voice cut through. This isn't criticism, Michael. This is an attack. Oh, come on, George, Michael said, waving him off. Don't be so dramatic. I'm having a conversation. Taylor's a big girl. She can handle it. He looked at her again, his smile almost cruel. Right, Taylor? Or are you going to write a song about this, too? Mean morning show host has a nice ring to it. Very on brand for you. Taylor stood up. The microphone pack on her waist fumbled as she reached to unhook it. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. What are you doing? Michael asked, but his tone suggested he knew exactly what he was doing. I'm leaving, Taylor said, her voice stronger now. I came here to have a conversation about my music, about my work, and you've done nothing but insult me and belittle everything I've built. Robin stood up too, reaching out toward Taylor. Taylor, please. We didn't know he was going to... This isn't what we planned. It's fine, Taylor said, but her eyes were glistening now. She was fighting back tears, and everyone could see it. I should have known better. Should have known what? Michael pressed, actually standing up now, like he was ready to continue the fight. That someone might actually question your whole victim narrative? That someone might point out that you've built a career on playing the heartbroken girl when you're one of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry? Michael, that's enough. George's voice was sharp, authoritative. Producers, cut to commercial. Now. But Michael wasn't done. What's enough? Asking real questions? Pushing back on the carefully crafted image? This is journalism, George. This is what we're supposed to do. This isn't journalism, Taylor said, her voice breaking now. Tears were streaming down her face. This is bullying. This is you using your platform to tear someone down because it makes you feel important. Oh, please, Michael said, his voice rising. Don't play the victim card with me. You're not a victim, Taylor. You're a calculated businesswoman who knows exactly how to manipulate public opinion. And crying on camera? Perfect. Just perfect. That'll get you another album's worth of material. Robin stepped between them. Michael, go. Get off the set. Right now. Are you kidding me? Michael looked genuinely shocked. You're taking her side? There are no sides, George said, moving to stand with Robin. You crossed every line. You need to leave. Taylor was already walking off the set. Her team had rushed in, surrounding her, trying to shield her from the cameras that were still rolling despite the chaos. One of her publicists was on the phone, speaking rapidly. Another had an arm around Taylor's shoulders as they moved toward the exit. Michael called after her. Real mature, Taylor. Run away. That's what you do best, right? Shut up, Michael, Robin hissed. Just shut up. The studio had erupted into chaos. Producers were shouting into headsets. Camera operators didn't know where to point. Some crew members had stopped working entirely, just staring at the scene unfolding before them. George grabbed Michael's arm. You need to apologize. Right now. Go after her and apologize. Michael yanked his arm away. For what? For being honest? For not playing the game? I'm not apologizing for doing my job. Your job isn't to make guests cry, Robin's voice cracked with emotion. Your job isn't to attack people who come here in good faith. Good faith? Michael laughed, but it sounded hollow now. She came here to sell an album. I just didn't let her do it on her terms. That's the difference between real journalism and whatever this show has become. Taylor had reached the door to the backstage area. She turned back one last time, her face streaked with tears, her mascara running. She looked directly at Michael. I hope whatever you got out of that was worth it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but somehow carrying across the entire studio. Because you just showed everyone exactly who you are. Then she was gone. Through the door, out of sight. The studio fell into a strange, uncomfortable silence. Even Michael seemed to realize, finally, that something had gone terribly wrong. Then his face had changed. The confidence had cracked just slightly. "She'll be fine," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "She's Taylor Swift. She'll turn this into a song and make another $1 million." Robin turned on him, her eyes blazing. "Get out. Get off this set. I don't want to look at you right now." "Robin, come on." "I said get out." Robin's voice echoed through the studio. "You don't get to do that to someone. You don't get to use this platform to bully and demean and tear down. I don't care who you are or what you think you were doing. That was disgusting." Michael looked at George, perhaps hoping for support, but George just shook his head. "You're on your own with this one, man. That was way over the line." For the first time, Michael seemed to understand the gravity of what had happened. He looked around the studio. Every crew member was staring at him, not with admiration or support, with disappointment, with disgust. "I was just trying to—" he started, but his voice trailed off. There was no ending to that sentence that would make this better. "You were trying to what?" Robin demanded. "Make her feel small? Prove you could get under her skin? Show everyone how tough you are by making a woman cry on national television?" "It wasn't like that," Michael said, but even he didn't sound convinced anymore. "Then what was it like?" George asked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looked like you decided to ambush a guest for no reason other than your own ego." Michael's jaw worked. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, but what could he say? The evidence was right there. The cameras had caught everything. His words, his tone, his complete lack of empathy or professionalism. The interview was supposed to be about her album. A producer's voice came through the speakers. "We had approved questions, a whole run sheet. You went completely off script." "Since when do we stick to scripts?" Michael shot back, grasping for anything. "We're supposed to be spontaneous. Real." "There's a difference between spontaneous and cruel," Robin said quietly. "You know that. Or at least, I thought you did." Michael stood there, isolated in the middle of the set. His co-hosts had turned away from him. The crew was actively avoiding eye contact. He'd gone from confident host to pariah in the span of minutes. "Fine," he said finally. "I'll go. But I stand by what I said. Someone needed to challenge her." "No," George said firmly. "Someone needed to challenge you. And they will." Michael walked off the set, not with the swagger he'd had earlier. His shoulders were slightly hunched. His steps were slower. Behind him, Robin and George stood together, both looking shaken. "Did that really just happen?" Robin asked, her voice small. "Yeah," George replied. "It really did." In the backstage area, Taylor was sitting in a small dressing room. Her team surrounded her, offering water, tissues, support, but she wasn't crying anymore. Now, she just looked tired, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with lack of sleep. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "What did I do? Why did he come at me like that?" Her publicist, a woman named Sarah, knelt beside her. "You didn't do anything. This is on him, completely on him." "But I must have," Taylor started. "No," Sarah said firmly. "Stop. So you walked in there ready to have a normal interview. You were kind, professional, excited to talk about your work. He decided to turn it into something else. That's not on you." Taylor nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "People are going to think I couldn't handle criticism, that I ran away. People are going to think he's a bully who attacked you for no reason," another team member said, "because that's exactly what happened." Back on the set, producers were scrambling. The show was still on air in other segments, but this interview had been the centerpiece. The big get. Taylor Swift talking about her new album, and now it was a disaster. "What do we do?" one producer asked frantically. "We address it," another replied. "We have to. We can't pretend that didn't just happen. Robin and George returned to their seats, and they looked at each other, then at the camera. The red light was on. They were live again. Robin took a breath. We need to address what just happened during our previous segment with Taylor Swift. George nodded. What you witnessed was completely unacceptable. The way our colleague spoke to Taylor was unprofessional, unkind, and not representative of the values of this show or this network. Taylor Swift came here as our guest, Robin continued, her voice steady but emotional. She deserved respect and courtesy. What she received was the opposite, and we are deeply sorry. The words hung there. An apology on live television. An acknowledgement that something had gone terribly, horribly wrong. In her dressing room, Taylor watched on a monitor. Her team had turned it on despite her protests. She needed to see this, they said. She needed to know that people were standing up for her. She watched Robin and George, saw the genuine remorse on their faces. It helped. A little. But it didn't erase what Michael had said. It didn't undo the hurt. I want to go home, Taylor said softly. Okay, Sarah replied. Let's get you home. They gathered her things. Her coat, her bag, the album copies she'd brought to give to the hosts. Those felt pointless now. She left them on the table. The hallways of the studio felt longer than they had when she'd arrived. Every step echoed. Crew members they passed looked at her with sympathy, with apology in their eyes. Some even mouthed, "I'm sorry," as she walked by. She didn't acknowledge them. She couldn't. If she stopped, if she engaged, she might break down completely. And she'd already cried enough on camera today. Her car was waiting outside. The driver opened the door without a word, understanding somehow that silence was what she needed. She climbed in, settled into the back seat, and finally let herself breathe. Through the tinted windows, she could see the Good Morning America building. Just another studio. Just another morning show. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Not for her. Inside, the show continued. Robin and George did their best to maintain normalcy. But the energy had shifted. Everything felt off. The other planned segments felt trivial after what had happened. During a commercial break, Robin pulled out her phone. I'm texting her. I need her to know we didn't know. We would never have... I know, George said. Text her. She should hear from us. Michael was in his own dressing room now. His phone was blowing up. Texts, calls, and notifications. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. Some messages were supportive. You told it like it is. And finally, someone who doesn't worship celebrities. But more were angry, disappointed, accusing him of bullying, of being cruel, of abusing his platform. He threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. What had he been thinking? The questions circled in his mind. He'd wanted to ask tough questions, to not give her an easy ride, but somewhere along the way, it had become personal. It had become an attack. And he wasn't even sure why. A knock on his door. Michael, producers want to see you. He didn't answer. What was there to say? Taylor's car pulled up to her apartment. She thanked the driver, made her way inside, took the elevator up to her floor. Her cats greeted her at the door, weaving between her legs, meowing for attention. She picked one up, held it close, and finally let herself cry again. Not the restrained tears from the studio. Real, full, body-shaking sobs. The kind that come from deep hurt, from feeling attacked and small and vulnerable. Her phone buzzed. A text from Robin. Taylor, I am so incredibly sorry. We had no idea he was going to do that. Please know that George and I support you completely. You deserved so much better. She read it, appreciated it, but didn't respond. Not yet. She needed time. Another buzz. This time from George. Similar message. Similar sentiment. More apologies. then her mom, her friends, people who'd seen clips online, who'd heard what happened, everyone reaching out, everyone sorry, everyone angry on her behalf. She turned the phone off. She couldn't deal with it. And not now. In the studio, the show wrapped. Final segments aired. Closing remarks were made. And then, it was over. Another episode of Good Morning America complete. Except this one would be remembered very differently than any other. Robin and George left the set together. They didn't speak until they were alone in the hallway. "That was awful," Robin said. "Yeah," George agreed. "One of the worst things I've seen in all my years doing this." "What happens now?" Robin asked. "I don't know," George replied honestly. "But something has to happen. You can't do what he did and just move on like nothing happened." They were right. Something would happen. Decisions would be made. Actions would be taken. But in that moment, in the immediate aftermath, everyone was still processing. They're still trying to understand how a simple morning interview had turned into such a disaster. Michael eventually emerged from his dressing room. He walked through the halls with his head down, avoiding eye contact. He could feel the judgment from everyone he passed. The disappointment. The anger. He made it to his car, climbed in, and sat there. The silence was deafening. His phone continued to buzz with notifications. The story was spreading. Videos were being shared. Think pieces were being written. Everyone had an opinion, and most of those opinions weren't kind to him. He'd wanted to make an impact, to be the journalist who asked tough questions. But this wasn't journalism. Deep down, he knew that. This was just cruelty, dressed up as honesty. Taylor, in her apartment, had stopped crying. She sat on her couch, her cats beside her, and stared at the wall. She thought about all the interviews she'd done over the years, the questions she'd answered, the stories she'd shared, the parts of herself she'd revealed. She'd always tried to be open, honest, vulnerable. She'd thought that was what people wanted, what they appreciated. But maybe Michael was right. Maybe people saw it as weakness, as something to exploit. No. She shook her head. He wasn't right. He was cruel. There was a difference. She picked up her phone, turned it back on, scrolled through the messages. So many people supporting her, defending her, angry at what had happened. It helped. But it also didn't change what had happened. It didn't erase his words or the way he'd made her feel. She opened her notes app, started typing. Not a song, not yet. Just thoughts, feelings. In processing what had happened in the only way she knew how. Through words. Back at the studio, producers were in emergency meetings. Publicists were crafting statements. Executives were making phone calls. The machinery of damage control was in full motion. But for Taylor, sitting alone in her apartment, none of that mattered. The damage was done. The hurt was real. And no amount of apologies or statements would change the fact that she'd walked onto that set trusting them, and she'd left in tears. She closed her notes app, looked at her cats. They purred, unaware of human drama, content just to be near her. Maybe that was enough for today. Just existing, just breathing, just getting through the next hour, and then the next, until this day was finally over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more questions, more decisions to make. But right now, in this moment, she just needed to be. To sit with the hurt, to acknowledge it without trying to fix it, or explain it, or turn it into something productive. She'd been strong on that set. She'd stood up for herself. She'd walked away. That took courage, even if it didn't feel like it right now. The sun was setting outside her window. The day was ending. And with it, hopefully, the worst of this experience. There would be fallout, conversations, maybe even confrontations. But she'd face those when they came. For now, she pulled a blanket around herself, let her cat settle into her lap, and closed her eyes. Tomorrow was another day, and she was Taylor Swift. She'd survived worse than Michael Strahan. She'd survived this too.